I think there comes a scenario where people are saying, wait a minute, there's a chance that I might not have food for Thanksgiving. You need to pass something right now. I don't care about health care going forward, about the Affordable Care Act, about anything else, because the most urgent thing is food.
To have an advanced society having people going hungry when the money is there. The federal government has, $300 billion that they could use as an emergency to cover this expense, but they don't want to do that.
And welcome to this episode of Lively. I'm Jim Hummel. I am joined this week by Boston Globe columnist Dan McGowan and our political contributor, Dr. Pablo Rodriguez. Welcome to you both. More than 140,000 Rhode Islanders are poised to lose food assistance benefits November 1st as the government shutdown has dragged on for more than a month. Now, let me give the caveat. We're taping on a Thursday morning, so things could change. We're not sure by the time people watch this. But if it holds up, here's what's at stake. Those 140,000 Rhode Islanders represent 14% of the state's population, and at stake, $29 million a month not coming into Rhode Island. Nationally, $42 million rely on SNAP benefits. That's a supplemental nutrition assistance program. Pablo, beyond this, there are structural issues going on, but the immediate problem is people potentially going hungry.
There's no doubt about it. And to have an advanced society having people going hungry when the money is there for it to be alleviated. The state obviously has a rainy day fund that could be used, and they're not using. They're only using a $6 million contingency fund for SNAP. And likewise, the federal government. The federal government has, $300 billion, in funds that they could use as an emergency to cover this expense, but they don't want to do that because, according to President Trump, this is a Democrat program.
Right.
How could feeding hungry people be just a Democrat program?
Yeah, and by the way, a lot of Republicans on food stamps too, right?
That's what I'm saying.
I think the other thing that's fascinating, and you just mentioned it, Pablo, is what I'm a little bit struck by is, while the governor did hold a press conference this week and announced they were going to have a state of emergency and they're going to put in a couple of $1 million, I'm a little bit surprised that we haven't seen from, across the board, our politicians kind of rallying together to say, yeah, we have to tap the rainy day fund, or we have to do whatever it takes to make sure that every person is fed. Because right now the plan is, and again, you said taping on a Thursday, you're right, anything could happen in the next couple of days, but sure, it sounds like we're going to take care of a lot of people that have children, so young families kind of thing. There's still 80-some-odd thousand people on food stamps in Rhode Island that need that money. We're heading into Thanksgiving. And so I'm a little surprised by how I think a little bit timid people are. And I wonder how much it is it's almost like calling President Trump's bluff. You think, sure, you're going to get to the deadline, and then President Trump is going to almost come through at the last minute and sort of release
and be
money.
The savior, right?
And come across as the savior.
And let's not forget, we already killed the school breakfast and lunch program that was feeding hungry children, that was providing vegetables and fruit for farmers, selling into the schools.
Right.
That was cut in the first pass of
the big beautiful bill.
The big beautiful bill. Yeah.
Right. You put that right out of your mind.
I know. No, but it was
the
Musk.
big bill.
No, actually, it was Musk, the one who cut
Doge
that
and
one.
Doge cut.
Doge.
Okay, yeah.
It was Doge.
The thing I wonder too is we're locked in, we pay attention, but you wonder how many people, not only in Rhode Island but nationwide, are going to get to the grocery store who are not paying attention to any of this. They're going to work, they have an EBT card, and if they don't solve this problem, and you think of potentially the violence that could go on. You wonder what the grocery stores are now doing in preparation, right?
Yeah, not only that, I mean, I think there are going to be a lot of people who are going to, potentially on Saturday morning want to go to the grocery store.
What do you mean my card doesn't work?
And it doesn't work. And that the dangerous part about this is you can debate about who's to blame here. Democrats are holding strong on health care and those negotiations in this shutdown. But a lot of people, the first thing they're going to do is Google what's happening, and whatever the first thing in their search feed is, whether it's Fox News or whatever, it's going to be either they're going to make that decision in that moment. This is the Democrats' fault or this is the Republicans' fault.
my liberal friends are going to kill me for saying this, but we have to also understand that this program really needs a lot of reform. I mean, we receive $29 million a month to distribute 12 million, to people. So it costs that much to distribute.
And the fact that
money.
42, look, that's another discussion for another day, but the fact that 42 million people are on food assistance in the greatest country in the world, think about that.
Absolutely. It's absolutely incredible. And let's not forget that there's another shoe to drop in a couple of years. The big, beautiful bill is going to cut the contribution by the federal government to the SNAP program for Rhode Island because we have an error rate of 12.6, 12.9%. And
so we get penalized for that.
You're penalized 15% more contribution the state is going to have to do in a couple of years.
Right. And it means that you're going to have more, state leaders kind of step up or, to your point, reform the system to some degree. And it is true. When I think about this, when I talk to people, sort of experts of this system, the argument, and I think it's a legitimate one, is it doesn't matter what the error rate is because we have to make sure as many people are fed as possible. I tend to personally agree with that. But to Pablo's point, you got to acknowledge some mistakes here and you got to figure out ways to fix it and make it more efficient because then you don't have the federal government sort of on your back.
But that's the macro view. The micro is people not being able to eat in the next month. I will tell you, I look back at the last couple of budget cycles and I've had these conversations with House Speaker Joe Sicarci. And I said 2 years ago, they took Governor McKee's budget and they added $250 million, $250 million to the budget. Last year was $100 million. I said, why don't you put that money in the rainy day fund? Oh, well, we have funded the rainy day fund. The rainy day fund is not what it should be in Rhode Island. And you wonder if they had put an extra $50 million instead of putting it into programs, that money would be available now.
I think the stat is you have about 19 days of money to run the government in Rhode Island in the rainy day fund. Now,
not much of a cushion.
Not much of a cushion.
Right?
Now, there's no scenario where you would ever need that, so it's kind of a fictitious challenge. But we should know other states, most states in this country are in a better place there, and you don't need rainy day money until there's a rainy day. And right now, this is as rainy a day as possible.
Yeah, it's a hurricane. I also wonder if we widen out about nationally, Republicans, Democrats. I understand what the Democrats, they want to force the issue on health care. But I wonder politically now whether the polling is beginning to show that people are holding the Democrats responsible. You can vote for the CR, the clean resolution bill. Why don't you just do that now and fight another day? And I kind of understand where the Democrats are, that they don't take the Republicans at their word. But what about that?
Well, there is a resolution before the Senate to actually approve funding for SNAP as a continuing resolution. The Republicans don't want to do that either. So it's
but wouldn't the House have to come back and pass that?
I think so. Yeah, they would have to.
Where's the House been the last month?
Right, they've been out
on vacation.
As Seth Magaziner likes to say, they've been on vacation, and this is the challenge. I mean, I think this game of chicken, which is very real to everybody else, but is not. It is just a game for many of these people in Washington. This is where I think your concerns, Jim, or what you're pointing out, are very legitimate. I think there comes a scenario where people are saying, "Wait a minute." There's a chance that I might not have food for Thanksgiving. You need to pass something right now. I don't care about health care going forward, about the Affordable Care Act, about anything else, because the most urgent thing is food.
And let's not forget, the bodegas, the supermarkets, the stores that depend on this $29 million that come in, to pay for food.
Right.
What are they going to do? I mean, it's going to have an impact on the local economy.
Right. And the phrase that I've heard a lot in the national discussion is, which pain point is worse right now?
Yes.
People not eating or conceptually their health care. And that's coming down the line because we've already seen, you were noting, you did a podcast the other day talking about the premiums.
Mm-hmm. It's absolutely ridiculous. And it's going to start coming out this week.
Right.
The letters are coming out Saturday as well.
So what do the numbers look like?
The numbers look like some people are going to pay $100 200, 300% more for their premiums because the tax credits are going to be eliminated according to the big beautiful bill. So the Democrats have a very, very strong message that is going to become stronger as people open the mail and see.
But that may be tomorrow's fight.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, well, it becomes this tough scenario. If you are if you're using the Affordable Care Act and using Obamacare as your insurance, there's a chance that maybe you have enough income where you're not receiving SNAP benefits. So right now you're getting that bill and you're outraged. But for people on SNAP benefits, you need that money Saturday. You need that money November 1st. I think the first wave of outrage is there. The following one, and then everybody's mad.
But wasn't the way that the
healthcare
exchange when President Obama first set it up was the penalty, the mandate? Mm-hmm. You have to take it because it's the young people who aren't going to the doctor who are subsidizing the old guys, right? And I think the problem's going to be now is a lot of people are going to get these bills and going to say, well, I just don't have the money. We're dropping health insurance because I need to put food on the table.
Absolutely.
And then there's a cascade with the rest of the health system.
It's a complete cascade. And let's not forget that the big beautiful bill also removed the funding for hospitals for uncompensated care because they say it's health care for the illegals, when in reality it's basically money going to the hospitals to compensate for a law that EMTALA that requires the hospitals to take care of people if they show up in the emergency room. So that is also another shoe to drop, for the healthcare system. We are really in trouble.
Yeah, it's a dangerous moment for the country because I think it is, the thing is, I think everybody, even those of us who are plugged in or informed or covering a lot of this, I think we're all still kind of waiting for the last minute savior complex that President Trump has, which is, which will maybe Saturday morning he announces we've cut a deal or something like that. But you're really up against the clock and you've got more than one. It's not just SNAP, it's healthcare too that you have to address.
And by the time you watch this, it may be solved, but the underlying problems aren't going away. So we'll keep an eye on that.
They are not.
Dan and Pablo, thank you. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Lively right here on Ocean State Media. Subscribe to us on YouTube and tell us what you think in the comments section below the video.